Right, so we're going to look now at changing the subject of a formula, or rearranging formula it's sometimes called, and um, the format is pretty standard. It's make one of the letters the subject of the formula. What that means is rearrange it. So for the first one there, rearrange it until you've got n equals and everything else on the other side of the equals sign. R equals, T equals, and so on. And it's the laws of algebra and solving equations that you're going to be using in that. You're going to be, in order to do one thing to one side, you have to do the same thing to the other side. Now we'll work through these. I'll try and explain as we go along. So if you do the first one then, so the first one, 4 bracket 2n plus x equals 6x take away 5. So we want to rearrange that to get n equals left on its own. So the first thing we're going to have to do is get rid of that bracket. We can't do anything until we're into that bracket. So when you're clearing a bracket, you multiply whatever's outside by everything that's inside. So we can have 4 times 2n is 8n, 4 times x is plus 4x equals 6x take 5. Now we want to get the n on its own, so that we need to get the 8n on its own first of all, and then deal with the 8. So the first thing we need to do is deal with this plus 4x. In order to get rid of that plus 4x, I've got to do the opposite of adding 4x, which is to subtract it. If I'm going to subtract 4x from that side to make it go, I have to do it to the other side as well. So if I just write that down, I know what we're doing. So I'm going to take 4x from both sides. That leaves me on the left hand side 8n, because I've got rid of that, and on the right hand side I got the 6x take 5, which was already there, and now I'm taking off that 4x as well. Now I can simplify that, because I got 6x take away 4x is 2x take away 5. Now to get the n on its own, I need to get rid of that 8. The 8 and the n, if there's no sign between them, it means they're joined by a multiply. So in order to get rid of a times 8, I've got to divide 8. If I divide that side by 8, I have to divide the other side by 8 as well. So this time I'm going to divide 8 both sides. So if I divide that side by 8, it just leaves me the n on its own. And if I divide this side by 8, in algebra, the divide is written as over. So over 8. So that's it. That's the job done. I've gone from here, where I've got letters and numbers on both sides, using just the laws of equations to get n equals on its own. So that one's done. The second one that we're looking at, make r the subject of the formula. 7 take 6f equals 4, 5 take 2r. Again, first thing to do, clear bracket. So when I'm clearing the bracket, on the left hand side I haven't got anything, any change, sorry. On the right hand side, 4 times 5 is 20, 4 times 2 is 8. Now I'm trying to get here the formula r equals, and on this line as it stands now, the r is going to end up negative, okay, because I got the minus 8r. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 8r to both sides, so that it's going to be positive and on this side. So plus 8r, have to do it to both sides, remember. So what happens now on this side, I've got the 7 take 6f plus now I've added the 8r, and on this side I've just got the 20 because adding 8r makes that go to 0. So I need to get the 8r on its own now. So first of all I'll deal with a 7. There's no sign in front of the 7, which means there's a plus there. So in order to get rid of that 7, I've got to take 7 off both sides. So subtract 7 both sides means that it's gone from this side. So on this side now I'm just left with that, and on the right hand side I've got 20 take away 7. I can evaluate that and work out that that's 13. Now I'm going to deal with the take 6f. In order to undo that, in order to make that go to 0, I have to add 6f. If I add 6f to that side, I have to do it to the other side as well. So I'm going to add 6f both sides. So on the left hand side I'm just left with 8r. On the right hand side I've got 13 plus 6f. To get the r on its own, I've got to get rid of the 8. The 8 and the r are joined by a multiply. So the opposite of multiplying is divide 8 both sides. That leaves me r on its own on that side, and on this side divide by 8. Okay? Let's look at the third one. Make t the subject of the formula 2n plus 5 equals 3, 8, take 3t. First job, deal with the brackets. No brackets on the left hand side, so that just remains as 2n plus 5. On the right hand side, 3 times 8 is 24, take away 9t. Remember, you're multiplying each bit. Now this is the same as question 2. I want t equals, if t stays on the right hand side, it's going to remain negative. So I'm going to add 9t to both sides to get it, make it positive. So plus 9t both sides. So I've got 2n plus 5 on the left hand side, and now I've got the plus 9t there as well. And on the right hand side I'm just left with 24. Now I'll get rid of the 2n. It's a plus 2n on this side, so to get rid of that I've got to take 2n off both sides. Okay, so take 2n both sides. So it's going to go from this side, leaving me plus 5. Plus 9t equals 24, take 2n. Now I deal with the 5. It's a plus 5, so I'm going to take 5 off both sides. Take 5 off that, it goes, leaving me 9t. On this side I've got 24, take 2n, take 5. 24 take away 5 is 19. Now finally deal with a 9. Should be getting used to this by now. Divide 9 both sides. We'll get rid of that, leaving me t equals 19, take away 2n, all over 9. So brackets, then because the subject, the t, what I want to be on its own, is negative, take it to the other side by adding 9t to both sides. Then get rid of the 2n by subtracting 2n. Then get rid of the plus 5 by subtracting 5. Then get rid of the times 9 by dividing by 9. Number 4. make d the subject of the formula, 4 bracket d, take 2e. Okay, deal with the bracket. Four times d is 4d minus 8e. 4 times that is that. Now I'm trying to get d on its own. It's on the right side because it's positive. So now I'm going to deal with that minus 8e. To make that go to 0, I've got to add 8e. If I add 8e to that side, I've got to add 8e to that side as well. So plus 8e both sides means I'm left with 4d on the left hand side and 7 plus 3e plus 8e on the right hand side. I can simplify that. 3e and 8e is 11e. The 4 and the d are joined by a multiply, so I now divide by 4 each side to get the d on its own, equals 7 plus 11e all over 4. Question 5. Okay, slightly different one now. Here I've got h equals the square root of t minus d, and I need to get d on its own. So the first thing I've got to do is deal with that square root. I've got to do the mathematical opposite of square rooting. The mathematical opposite of square rooting is squaring. So I have to square both sides. So if I square h, I get h squared, and if I square that, it just leaves me the t take d. Same issue as with the previous questions. If I want to get d equals, it's negative on this side, so to make it positive, I'm going to add d to both sides. So I get h squared add d equals t. Now I want to get the d on its own, so I have to get rid of the h squared. The h squared is being added on that side, so I have to subtract h squared both sides. D equals t, take h squared. And I've only got one d there already, so there's nothing to divide by. That's the answer done. So what makes that one a bit different from the earlier ones is now we've got to get rid of that square root by squaring. And the final one of the most straightforward ones, question 6, is another square root one. Make n the subject of the formula. 3n add 4p equals m. Right, so square both sides to get rid of that square root. So when I square the left hand side, it gets rid of the square root. When I square the right hand side, I get m squared. I want to get n equals, so I got to get rid of the add 4p. Get rid of add 4 by subtracting 4p. Both sides. 3n, take that away, it's gone, but it is there. And now to get the n on its own, I have to undo the times by 3 by dividing 3. Both sides. Job done. Now, if we look at the remaining 3, and we'll see why they're a bit harder. So with this question 7, it's t that we need to make the subject. So I need to rearrange it to get t equals. And what you'll see there is that I've got t's on both sides of the equal sign. Okay, so we'll see how to deal with this. First way is, as previous, we've got to clear out the brackets. So on this side we get w times 5, which is 5w. Take 3 times w times t is 3tw. And on this side 2t plus 10. Now then, what I need to do in order to get t equals is I need everything which has got a t in it on one side and everything that hasn't got a t in it on the other. So I need this part and this part to be on the same side. And I can see that if I end up getting rid of that and bringing it over here, then it's going to be negative. So I'm actually going to keep the t's on the right hand side this time. Okay, and I'm going to keep everything else on the left hand side. Hopefully it'll become clear as we go through it. So the first thing to do then is to make sure that this minus 3tw ends up on the right hand side, and I do that by doing the opposite of taking 3tw. I'm going to add 3tw to each side. So I'm left with 5w on this side equals 2t plus 10 plus 3tw on that side. Okay, so by adding 3tw, it's gone from there, but I've got a plus 3tw on that side. Now I want to get rid of that add 10. There's no t in that part of the expression. So the opposite of adding 10 is subtract 10, both sides. So the left hand side now becomes 5w subtract 10. This side has got 2t add 3tw. Now, this is the complicated bit. Before you do this, you need to be happy with the idea of common factors. So if you don't know what a common factor is, I wouldn't bother with the next bit. You need to really get your head around common factors first. But what we've got here is t is a common factor of both of those. So we can take t as common factor. What that means is nothing on the left hand side, but on the right hand side I can take t out of that out of that bracket. So if I take t out of there, it leaves me 2. If I take t out of there, it leaves me 3w. Okay, so 5w take 10 is t bracket 2 plus 3w. Now the t is joined to that bracket by a times. So to get the t on its own, I have to, instead of multiply by bracket, I'm going to divide by bracket. So what I'm going to do now to get the t on its own is divide by that bracket. So I get 5w take 10. Remember, divide in algebra, and that leaves me the t on its own. And it doesn't matter if it's written like that, or you can write it the other way around as makes no difference. Okay, once you get it down to that stage. So this is more complicated now. This is why it's this sort of rearrangement will appear in the second half of a higher tier paper. Okay, there's more bracket work to do. Then you've got to be able to deal with common factors. Then you've got to divide by what's left in the brackets. So let's try that again with number 8. So we've got now y equals x plus 9 all over 2x take 5. And we want to make x the subject. So we need to do a rearrangement here to get all the x's on their own, or to get x on its own. Right, well, the only place we can go really first of all is to deal with the divide. Okay, what's happening there is that the top is being divided by that. So if we undo divide by that by multiplying by it, so we're going to times 2x take 5 both sides. So that means that the left hand side then becomes, and the right hand side just has that. Now we'll clear the bracket. Y times 2x is 2xy. Y times minus 5 is that. Now, as before, what I'm looking for is to get anything with an x on one side and anything without an x on the other side. So that x there, I need to be here. So I need to subtract x from that side, and therefore subtract x from that side as well. So take x both sides, means on this side I got 2xy, take 5y, take x, and on this side I got my 9. Now I've got this take 5y here, hasn't got any x's in it, so I want to get rid of it. In order to get rid of a take 5y, I add 5y. Add 5y to both sides, leaves me 2xy, take x on this side, and plus 9 or 9 plus 5y on that side. That plus, you don't need it there because it's the first term, so we just assume it's there. Okay, here now we've got the common factor bit to do. We've got an x in that term and we've got an x in that term. So we can take x out as common factor. When we take x out of the first term, it leaves us 2y. Now, if I take x out of that, it doesn't become 0, otherwise there'll be nothing there to multiply back in. Okay, what we've got there is x times 1, yeah? Because anything times 1 is the same. So what's left with that is that. If you're not sure, multiply it back out. X times 2y, 2xy, x times minus 1 is minus x. Okay, so we're nearly there. X times all of that equals that. So to get the x on its own, I need to divide both sides by the contents of that bracket. So divide by 2y, take 1, both sides. Leaves x on its own on that side, and on the other side we get 9 plus 5y equals 2y, take away 1. And the final question that we're going to do here, number 9, make E the subject of the formula, D bracket 2 plus E over 5, take E equals 3. So this one now, 4 marks, and it's got brackets and fractions to deal with, so we're definitely up in the far end of the paper here. First thing, deal with the fraction. Here it's divided by 5 take E, So what we need to do is multiply both sides by 5, take E. On the left hand side that leaves us that, and on the right hand side it gives us that. Now I need E equals, and I've got E on that side and E on that side. So more work to do. Get rid of the brackets first of all. (2d) plus ED. 2 times D is 2D, E times D is DE or ED, doesn't matter. On this side, 3 times 5 is 15, 3 times E is 3E. Now I want everything with E's on one side. I got a negative E there, so I'm better off having that over here, and then everything with an E in will be positive. So if I add 3E to both sides, on this side I've got 2D plus ED plus 3E, and on this side I've got 15. This hasn't got an E in, so I need to get rid of that. It's add 2D on this side, so I need to subtract 2D. Now I need to isolate the E, so I've got E as a common factor. E bracket D plus 3. If I take E out of there, there's D left. If I take E out of there, there's 3 left. Check it. E times D is ED. E times 3 is 3E. Now the E is joined to the brackets by a multiply, so to get the E on its own I have to divide by the bracket. Do it to one side, you've got to do it to the other as well. Using E on this side, and on the other side 15 take 2D divided by D plus 3. So there's a fairly big jump in difficulty between the first ones here, where the unknown or the letter appears only once, and the second ones here, which will be the far end of the paper, where you've got to do some common factor work in order to get the D on its own.